Okay, today we are going to transplant shelling peas from our germination bed into the jar that it's going to grow in and harvest in. And so the last video I showed you how to prepare your germination bed and the little tent. I'm going to take the tent off so you can see. Been keeping an eye on it. Today is April 17th, so it took 5 days to go from a seed to a seedling, and as you can see, I'll show you the different pieces of this without ripping them apart, I hope. Okay, so here's the seed. This right here is called the radical. This is a root, and this is the stem that the leaf will develop on. Okay, so that's what we're going to transplant today. Now we'll need a couple of things to do that. I'm going to set that aside for a minute. I use fruit jars for all of my containers. I start them all, even things like tomatoes and plants that get bigger and require more space. I always start with this, then I go to a quart jar, then I go to a gallon jar. And the reason I do that, it's not plastic, but you can use plastic. You can recycle and use anything that you have in your house. But I didn't want to wait for months while I recycled enough mayonnaise jars to be able to grow stuff. So I just went and bought the glass jar. And the great thing about it is you can, after you're done growing something, you can wash it out, sterilize it, and reuse it, and just continue to keep it going. You probably will have to buy new lids, because I do use the lids as well. Here's a lid ready to go. You can buy just the lids here, and this stuff is, in the scheme of things, is very, very inexpensive. For 14 jars, it started out to be right around $9, and I had some left over from canning years ago, but since the coronavirus thing, the price has gone up, so they're about $14 for 14 now. But if you think about it, $1 a jar to grow food, and then you can wash the jar when that plant has finally exhausted itself. That's, in the scheme of things, pretty cheap. Okay, so this is what the lid looks like before I mark it up to this, and I'll show you how to do this and why. So let's cover this right now. I take my razor knife and I make a cut here, and I make a cut here, and then I make, so I guess I'll just do it for you to show you. It's fairly easy. Just go here and go here, and then I use my cutting block. Try to move my hand so you can see it, and I scribe into it like that. Go to the other side, scribe into it like that. Do the other one. It doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be perfectly centered, just creating an opening. Okay, now leave that for just a second, because then you have to cut air holes. Now, I may get a little anal about the air hole idea, but in order to grow hydroponically, I believe the greatest key to success is to have an oxygen supply to develop your oxygen roots with. So, at the end of each line, I scribe it and just put a little hole. Doesn't have to, you don't have to get crazy about anything, just scribe it. You want air. Okay? Then, do a little bit more here. All right. So then I'm done with that. I take my scissors. All right. I also have a pair of needle nose pliers I use, but I don't have them at the table, so I'll show you with the scissors. In case you don't have someone that's got a shop full of tools that you can use like I do. Yay, I love his tools. Okay, then you move this back, you flatten it, and I don't even worry about the air holes. So that's what it looks like. That's how you make it. You can whip these out pretty fast. Okay, then I cut electric tape, and that's pretty wide tape. So You can either cut it and leave it. I do for some of the, when I'm using gallon jars, I leave it pretty wide. Or you can just go like that. Boom, boom. Takes 2 little strips, and then you put it there. Why do I do that? Well, because consider your light source is going to be shining down, and shining down into your plant, and your plant may not be bushy enough to block it, and so that means that light is getting in to the nutrients, and light, plant, and nutrient water equals algae, and algae will kill your plant. So I take this little extra step. I'm sure there's probably other ways to do it, but this is the way I came up with. So if you come up with another way, use it, and then share it. Anyway, that kind of covers the holes from the light that's going to be shining in it from your grow light. Okay, so the lid is ready. Now here's what I do for the jar. I take duct tape and I duct tape the bottom, and because I don't want my water to get algae in it. So what do I cover it with? I have a couple of things that I use to cover it. The most fun is if you have any knee-high socks that you can donate to your cause. I had a lot of them. They had holes in the toes, so they were kind of getting useless as socks. These were knee-highs, and so I was able to get 2 container wraps out of 1 sock. Here's another one. Now the thing about this one, though, you got to watch out, is it's pretty see-through. So you just got to make sure that no light is getting through. So I'm going to use this one to show you. So that's not bad. You get 4 covers out of 1 pair of socks that you were just going to end up scrapping anyway. Reuse, recycle, reduce, anything that you can. Okay? Then what I do is I take it like this and turn it around. And there, now I have my cover, so algae can't grow in my plant. The other beautiful part about this, though, is you can go like that and you can see what's going on with your plant. I'll share in other videos and other blog posts what happens when you can't see. But the fascinating thing about this is it's not only what's going on top that's interesting, but it's more interesting what's going on in the water. So you want to be able to do that. There are, if you don't have socks, there are other ways to do things. Use your imagination. One thing, because I like to see what's going on with the roots, there's 2 different ways you can use aluminum foil. I could take a piece of aluminum foil and just shape it around this, but every time I go to peek and see what's going on in the roots, do they need more water? Is my oxygen root developing? Blah, blah, blah. Then I have to start with the new sheet of aluminum foil, so then you're wasting stuff. So I call them my little aluminum foil duct tape blankets. And then as you can see, I have the little tabs here, so I can take them off. So I'll just show you how it works. This is for a different kind of jar. Here, I'll show you the jar that it's supposed to go with. So, see, it fits tight on there. I take the little tabs and I tie them, and it's tight, so no algae can get in. But then when I want to look at it, I just open it up. Boom, boom, there you go. Okay, so these things, I'll probably do a separate video on how to do it, but you just have aluminum foil and duct tape and you create it, and you can reuse it over and over and over and over. You can also reuse the sock over and over and over. Okay, so now our jar is ready. So the next thing that happens is that you see a lot of hydroponic growing, and it's done with net cups. Okay, so you can put the net cup, this is obviously too big, but that would work. Okay, so you could use a net cup, but it's something else that you have to buy, and I'm trying to do this the least expensive way, where you don't have to run to the store and buy something special. What if you don't have a store that sells hydroponics? Home Depot sells some. They probably sell more in the summer. But why should you have to be dependent on one store to get your stuff done? And if you can do it without, then why not? So that was probably my biggest source of experimentation. What will work as a medium or a container to hold the plant as it develops? I came up with it. It's quite successful. I really like it. I went to the store and I bought 200 square feet of aluminum foil, and it's going to last me a long time. So what I do is I take a sheet of aluminum foil about that big, and I fold it in half, and that'll give me 2 jars. Okay? Cut it in half. And I learned the hard way that you want to put the shiny side down. You don't want the shiny side up under a grow light, because it blinds you. You can barely see after you look at it. Okay, you don't want to put that side up, you want to put that side up. So then, I'm actually getting ready to plant these, so I'll just show you the whole entire process. Okay, so I put it over here, push it down, get it where it's taut right here, and then I cut the excess off, so I go right below the ring that you screw the lid onto. There, get that excess off. Throw this in with your recycles. That's the other thing. Aluminum is infinitely recyclable. Okay, so then I take the lid that I prepared and I put it on top. And then if you have a pair of tweezers or a pen point or anything like that, then you can go in and puncture the aluminum foil where you had the holes, the air holes. So you just go in there and puncture it. And then, these are pretty big roots. Here, let me grab. So I'm gonna I'll grab this one because it's already loose. And so I'm going to take it and put a hole right in the center there. It's a little bit bigger than some, but then I'm gonna feed it through. Okay, and try not to cut it or disturb it. Now, notice I have the leaf, it's pointing straight up, ready to go. I do take one more step as a precaution. I've also experimented with natural insecticides and ways to keep things from developing mold and other things that you don't want in your plants. And I've discovered that cinnamon is really good for that. There's a lot of scientific study to back it up. And before I add the nutrient water, I just sprinkle the cinnamon there. We'll have a story about cinnamon later. I'll have a blog post about cinnamon, but just trust me. And no, it doesn't matter if it's the cinnamon you buy at the King Soopers or the fancy stuff that you buy online. It doesn't matter. They both work the same way. Okay, now we're ready to go, except for one thing. We don't have any water in this. So I bought a gallon of water so I could get the jar. I drank the water, don't worry, I didn't waste it. And so this is my gallon jug that I mix my water nutrients in. Water nutrients, or nutrients, are the most important part of this. And I'll show you, and I will give you a link to buy your own set. It lasts, there's a lot that you get in a bag, and it lasts for quite a while. And I did get it on Amazon, but it's worth it. I actually got this from another supplier, but you just need something that measures a quarter, a half teaspoon. So Master Blend is what I recommend. I'll include the link in the blog post. That's the nutrient. Epsom salt, magnesium sulfate. This is not the Epsom salt that you soak your feet in. They add all kinds of chemicals and smell good stuff in that, so don't buy that. This is specifically made for plants. This supplies magnesium, which is an important nutrient that plants need. It's what keeps green leaves green. This is calcium nitrate, also very important to grow plants. So I make a mark on here. I use a 1/4 teaspoon per gallon of this, a 1/2 teaspoon and a 1/2 teaspoon of this. And as you can see, I mark it on here so I don't get confused, but it's also worn off on this one. But anyway, 1/4, 1/2, 1/2, and then you just take it. So that's my 1/4 mark for Epsom salt, and then this is my 1/2 mark, my 1/2 teaspoon mark for both the master blend and the calcium nitrate. I put them in the jar. I fill the jar up with water, or the jug here, and then put the lid on, and then shake it like that, and we're done. That's it. Then I put these in a bag, and especially if you have kids, you want to be especially conscious of this. If you have pets too, you don't ever want to leave this stuff out. And I put it in another plastic bag, just because I'm a little bit anal about things like this, and zip it up. And then I put this in a cupboard far out of the reach of any kids. Okay, and I store it. If I have some left over, I store it with that in the same cupboard. Then I'm going to show you. So see, we've got everything set up. You can just peel this away, just like that. Now remember, there's actually a seedling in there, so I don't want to break the root off. And I'm going to pour this all the way up to the ring. Now, depending on how long your root system is, you may want to add more. The whole key thing here is to not let your root go dry. So I'm going to go a little bit higher. Okay? Then put this guy in his new home. Put it in there. And then just on the off chance, I take a peek. I lift up the aluminum foil and I take a peek and make sure that the root is hitting the water. And you can also lift it up like that and check too. But you want to make sure that your root hit the water. And it does. But it curved around, so I'm going to go in here. It's curving. There we go. So it's going to adjust the way that it's sitting on top, just so I can make sure it's hitting the water. There, now we're hitting it. Because you would not want to lose a seedling that's looking that good. Okay. Then my last step, I take the ring, hold that down, turn it, double check one more time. I may need to adjust that a little bit. I'll adjust it later so I don't take up your time. Just make sure the root's hitting the water. Then I pour this, pull this up, make sure that it's covering at the bottom. Okay, and that seedling is now ready to grow. So I then put it under the grow light, and we'll talk about grow lights in a different video. Oh, I forgot one thing. I forgot to label it. So, pull this over here. And then if you cannot transfer the label from your germination tray, create a new one. Just make sure that you put all the important information on it. P, germinated 4/12, transferred 4/17. Then I put it there. Now I put this up. And now we're ready to go under the grow light. That's it for this video.